Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Comic Book Nerd. And sorry for, of course, the no video day yesterday, but it was just a super busy day overall. Wednesdays are usually my busiest day of the week, and it is sometimes really hard to get videos out. So I hope you guys understand on that one. However, with that being said, the other day on Tuesday, we got the episode number 7 of Daredevil Born Again. I'm sure a lot of breakdowns have already been put out on YouTube, but I just want to get mine out there as well before we head into episode number 8 and talk a little bit about what's to come in that episode, because on Saturday during the live stream we're going to talk about it as well. But first, of course, if you are new to the channel, you already know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe, turn that bell on, as we do our best to post on this channel every single day. Like I said, sorry, did not get to post yesterday on the channel, but we are back today. Should be a full 3 or 4 video day for you, so hit the sub button, leave a comment so you don't miss out, and without further ado, let us go ahead and hop into this Daredevil Born Again episode number 7 breakdown. So, we open on New York City after the protest. We see the aftermath of said protest as City Hall is just covered in trash. Matt is still in his Daredevil suit, and we see Kingpin put on his white clothes, hinting at Wilson Fisk's return to the character Kingpin. We also see Wilson put his ring on and give what looks like the keys to the city back to the police. Next, we see what looks to be a jail cell as Karen Page is being held there. She, of course, has to get checked for weapons and stuff like that before getting locked into a jail cell. Wilson then walks down jail hallway to talk to Karen. Wilson introduces himself to Karen, saying that she took people from him, and also asks why she stuck with Matt. She basically just says for love, right? Obviously, they love each other very much. Wilson Fisk laughs at this because Vanessa is, of course, dead, the one who he loved very much as well, and Karen says that she needs her one phone call. Wilson grabs her by the throat, almost killing her, but stops and lets her get her phone call. We open on Mr. Charles as he is in bed half naked and Jessica Jones is in the room. Jess threatens Charles and says to never send the AVTF to her house ever again. Charles snaps back at her, saying that she's the only one who's connected her to Luke Cage, confirming that they do, of course, have a daughter together. This scene is very important, I do believe, for Season 3. I think Luke Cage is either going to come back in the finale, or he is going to come back in episode number 1 of Season 3. I just think, again, they are setting up a Defenders reunion here in the finale against Kingpin and taking him down once and for all. Jess asks where he is, and Charles says that he is overseas, again, possibly hinting at his return and in Season 3. Charles tells Jess that he is no longer on Wilson's side and is now trying to take him down, and that the governor wants Fisk out. However, she's too scared to do that because she doesn't want to die, and Jess wants to help her. Next, we see Jess and Matt talking on another rooftop. Jess tells Matt that Charles says the governor wants Fisk out as mayor. As Matt asks if he trusts him, and she says she doesn't know, but again, it checks out. We then see Cherry walk in the scene as he says that Karen has been taken to prison and her and Wilson have already had a conversation. Matt tells Cherry that she's not safe, and Cherry says that if they wanted to kill her, they would have done it already. Cherry and Matt argue for a minute as Cherry leaves, knowing he's already helped Matt. Jess also says that she has a daughter to get back to and doesn't want to stay as she leaves too, saying that the city needs Matt. So right there, of course, that is a big pivotal moment here in this episode. However, at the end of the episode, Jess is going to come to her fruition and realize that the city does need her help, and she is going to join Matt in the fight against Kingpin in episode number 8. We'll talk about what's to happen next here very, very shortly. Matt is back at his hideout as he releases Bullseye from the chain he's been using to hold him down. Matt says that he has his one good deed ready for him, and if he means what he says, he'll help him. Matt also tells Poindexter that he hates him for Foggy, and part of him needs to forgive him for that. Poindexter gets up and then, of course, asks Matt what he needs to do. So, Poindexter is going to be helping Matt Murdock and Karen Page now in this episode. Karen, of course, in the last episode, almost killing him. I think is even more of making him realize that he does need to help Matt and Karen out to get them back on his side. And ultimately, I think this is a very powerful scene because it might set up the Dark Avengers in the MCU with Charles, with Valentina. I think both of those two characters are going to be massive power players in the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward after Avengers Secret Wars. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But I do think there's going to be some type of Dark Avengers team with possibly Poindexter on that squad. We're back at prison as Karen gets to talk to Matt. Matt and Karen meet up and talk about how they'll have to face Wilson in court and humiliate him. Also, I will say Officer Brett does appear to let Karen out. He is kind of the go-to guy in the Netflix show. Now he's back in the MCU. A lot of people were excited about that, including myself. Cannot wait to see what he does in terms of helping Matt and Karen in the fight against Kingpin. Matt also says that they'll have to do things to beat him, hinting at, of course, his return to court between him and Wilson. Karen says to Matt that he can't but might have to, and they leave with that. Karen goes back to Joe, and Matt says that he will save her and come for her. Cut back to Mayor Fisk and Hochberg. Hochberg says that they are going to be multiple charges and that they should just focus on each specific main one. However, Fisk says that they should focus on all of them as Hochberg and Fisk argue about that and walks Heather. Wilson says to Heather to come in as Heather and Wilson how he's doing, of course. And he responds with, he's never been asked that before. Heather shares some kind words, but Wilson shows her one of the earrings that was left by her because she only took one of the earrings in episode number 5. Heather taking one of Vanessa's earrings there in episode number 5, kind of in remembrance of Vanessa. Heather tries to apologize, but Fisk says, of course, that she did it out of loss and grief and gives it to her, but not before, of course, threatening her again. We then see Karen getting ready for her trial over dramatic music walking into the courtroom, with Kirsten getting ready to defend her, but not before we see Buck and BB again. We cut to Daniel and BB after what happened in the previous episode. BB and Daniel ultimately work it out as Daniel wants to protect BB, saying that they need a safe house, quote unquote. BB snaps back at her and at Daniel and says that she built the BB report on her own and didn't need his help anyway to get it off the ground. However, they decide to work together to get out of there and agree to move on. Daniel texts Buck a location, possibly hinting at Daniel being killed. Now, that is another, of course, big time thing that happened at the end of this episode. We will talk about that later on. I do want to say, spoiler warning before we go any further. If you are watching this without watching the episode, go watch the episode, man. This episode is so good, and it sets up a lot for what's to come in episode 8 and possibly season 3 as well. Now it's time for the trial. Karen Page versus Wilson Fisk. Kirsten and Hochberg give their opening statements, both questioning what a vigilante is. Kirsten then asks for her backup witness, and in walk Matt. This has Kingpin pissed, and I gotta say, this was the hardest entrance that I've seen of a character so far. Him walking into the courtroom, returning for Karen Page's trial. Obviously, he's gonna do that. He loves Karen very, very much, but man, what a freaking entrance that Matt made. And honestly, with them calling it at the end a little bit of a spoiler warning and kind of going into the next day, I'm very curious to see what happens with Matt during that time period. So we shall see. But in the meantime, of course, Kirsten is asking her backup witness, of course, and then walks Matt. They call Officer Powell and the other ATVF agents up to the stand, asking Powell what the mission of the task force is. Matt and Kirsten question a lot of questionable things that they did as things start to heat up. The judge shuts things down, and Kirsten agrees to end it, knowing she has a leg up on Kingpin. We then cut to the governor, who is watching all of this happen as she is calling someone named Alan. At that, it's time to start the paperwork, and she wants Fisk out as mayor. Again, this is what was hinted at earlier on in the episode, right, where, of course, the mayor or the governor wanted Fisk out as mayor to begin with. She trusted Vanessa more than she trusted Kingpin, and now we're starting to kind of see the stepping stones to that in this episode. Next, we see Daniel and BB arrive at the location where he told Buck to meet. Buck texts him and asks if he's here, and Daniel tells BB to get out of the car. BB realizes he's going to kill her, or thinks he is, and tells Buck that he needs to stop and realize who he's becoming. Daniel rather ultimately agrees, giving BB her phone and telling her to take off and to not go anywhere that Fisk would look for. Back to the courtroom, as the judge says this ruling will be paused until tomorrow. Kristen thinks that she's got them right where she wants them, and the court is dismissed. However, Matt notices they are not leaving as we cut back to Wilson in his bedroom. We then see the so-called good guys try to leave. However, Matt uses his powers and senses that the task force is coming to kill them, and they have to fight back. Matt gets hit with a bullet, and Cherry shoots back as they all escape. And we cut back to the governor, and we see her being choked, probably by one of Wilson's men, to kill her before the paperwork can go through. Bullseye, however, appears and saves her as the police arrive, and that is, of course, his one good moment. So that's his one good deed, right? Helping the governor by, of course, saving her, keeping her alive so that she can go through with the paperwork to get Wilson Fisk out of the office. All of that stuff, I think, is going to become more important in the later on down the line MCU, not the current MCU that we are in, though, after Avengers Secret Wars. I do think that Poindexter, rather, is going to join the Dark Avengers and possibly join them, and the team will be created by Val and Mr. Charles as well. We then cut to Daniel and Buck, as Buck asks BB where BB is, and Daniel straight up says to F off and won't tell him. Buck says that we knew this would come to a fight. As Buck is kicking the crap out of Daniel, we transition back to Karen Page. Karen is being interrogated by Heather. Heather asks for some questions about her personal life, and Karen snaps back at her. Heather is pissed at Karen, really just because she reminded her of Muse, and of course, Heather even slaps her a few times. Heather ultimately leaves, saying that we should do this again sometime soon, and no questions were even asked. Heather is becoming Muse in this scene. I think that is so true here in this scene because, again, she is still remembering, of course, Muse, what happened to her, and ultimately I think it's season 3 where the most important season is going to happen. Heather is going to end up being Muse and helping Kingpin against Matt and Daredevil. Meanwhile, Buck and Daniel are still fighting. More like Buck is kicking the crap out of Daniel, but Buck holds a gun to his head, asking where BB is. Again, Daniel still says he does not know. Cut back to Matt, who is seen in the church asking for help from God. Buck is still holding a gun to Daniel's head, and we cut to Wilson sitting on the bed again. Just, again, imagine the drama of all of this, and in walks Jessica Jones. As in episode 8, she is going to help him. However, Buck kills Daniel, and that is the end of episode number 7. So, a very, very short episode compared to what we have been used to getting, right? They cut it about 7 or so minutes of the usual 53, 54, but I do think this episode was more of a filler episode, and I do think, of course, that Jessica Jones is going to help him. I think maybe Luke Cage even comes in at the end of season 2 there, as we've seen that set photo leak from the actor who plays Luke Cage himself. Lots of stuff still to go down in episode number 8. I'm very curious to see the aftermath of Daniel killing Buck. Maybe they just kind of sweep it under the rug and still are looking for BB, but we shall see. However, BB using Daniel there at the end of the episode makes my heart crush, man. Daniel was such a great guy. He just wanted to do what was right in his eyes, ultimately, and that was what was right, was helping Heather. Again, very curious to see what we do with Jess and Matt going forward. Also very curious to see about Heather. Maybe she starts to turn it into Muse there at the end of episode number 8. It's curious to see what happens next in the trial with Karen Page versus Kingpin. Lots of interesting stuff to happen here in the next episode. We will talk about it in the live stream, so stay tuned for that. I just wanted to get a recap / breakdown of this episode out. Again, I will also say that we saw the Avengers Tower in that episode as well. So maybe we got some Doomsday stuff going on in the background of Daredevil Born Again, episode number 7 in season 2. However, let me know your thoughts of this episode in the comments down below. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know all of that in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, turn that bell on, as we do our best to post on this channel every single day. Later today, we will have some videos talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day. We've got some news to go over regarding that film. We'll also probably hit on DC a little bit as well. So stay tuned. Hit the sub button. We're on the road to Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars, Marvel, Star Wars, DC, everything in pop culture. So don't miss out on any of the latest videos by smashing that sub button. Also, the #1 way you can support us here at the channel. Again, join us for the live streams on Saturday. We're probably going to start around 7 o'clock or so Central Time, so 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so you guys can get a little nighttime streaming before you head to bed, all of that stuff. So join us for that. Hit the sub button so you don't miss out. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace.